Perfect. So, hi everyone. Welcome to the workshop on developing an AI data strategy. Now, I'll get into more details about what this is about, but a bit about me. So, I got my MBA from Stanford University's Graduate School of Business. Got my bachelor's and master's from the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay. Currently working as a product lead at Intuit, leading our QuickBooks developer ecosystem. And before this, I was a senior PM at PayPal. And before that, I was a product manager at Oracle. I've done a few more things before moving to the US from India. I used to be the head of product at a startup. And before that, at the start of my career, I was an Android app developer. But all of this is fine. What qualifies me to take this workshop? Um, what really qualifies me is the fact that I've shipped 9 AI products, including one Gen AI product. In fact, this Gen AI product that I shipped back at PayPal, I'm still in the talks with PayPal to apply for a patent. So that's in process. So I've seen what happens, like what you need to do when you're thinking of an AI product, like when you're actually even starting to think of using AI for your product. And we are going to get into more details about this. So, number one, I'm going to start right off as in, I want everyone to just popcorn, what is AI? And feel free to answer in the chat. And yeah, if anyone wants to unmute themselves and talk, that's fine too. So yes, what do you think is AI?
Well, Riya, I can use the definition that we've used in the PME course, which was helpful to me. So it's like what the way it's framed in the course is that AI is any system that can automatically do tasks that usually require human intelligence. So I know it's very broad, but at least it's kind of helped anchor me a little bit as to what AI is.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, again, this is actually kind of like the usual market accepted definition. But if you actually go deeper into it, um, mostly it is essentially all about data, as in every AI, like when you actually kind of like open the hood, every AI product is essentially dependent on data and statistics. It's also all about prediction, and it's also all about classification. In fact, every AI feature that you might think of, from simple regression to current ChatGPT, everything is either prediction or classification from some pre-existing data. But if you actually open the hood even more, this is just basically kind of like one level down. When you actually really go into the mathematical explanation, then it's basically a mathematical model that's working on data. It would have an objective function. So it's either trying to minimize or maximize something. In fact, even ChatGPT, when it predicts the next token, the next set of words, it's essentially trying to predict what is the likelihood of that next token appearing in its data set, given what's already been typed by the user. So there's always an objective function that is trying to minimize or maximize. And there are constraints. In fact, and this is true for any AI model. So having seen this, let's get into a tale of two startups. I'm going to describe what these two startups are. Obviously, both of them are fictional companies. I don't want to get sued. So Innovate Tech. This is a startup in the healthcare sector. And what it really wants, it identified that for a lot of hospitals, predicting patient readmission rates is really important. If a hospital is able to accurately predict readmission likelihood of a patient, then that hospital can give better care, more customized care to that patient. So it's an important problem to solve. So Innovate Tech is a startup that has decided to address this problem. So yeah, so their customers are medium-sized hospital. And similarly, Health AI is also a similar startup which basically wants to do the same thing. And they also have medium-sized hospitals as their customers. But this is where the differences start between the two companies. Number one, Innovate Tech. They just quickly started going to hospitals, started recruiting them as customers, and persuaded them to share patient data, of course, in a secure manner, but they actually started gathering patient data without a structured data strategy. And Health AI, on the other hand, actually developed a comprehensive data strategy, as in they identified what the data are they going to need, what complications or what issues they're going to face, and what kind of data quality management they're going to need to do. And based on that, they started a systematic approach to gathering data. So in the chat, or just unmute yourself, guess the result. What may have happened? Yeah, anything, any guesses on what may have happened between the two, like for Innovate Tech and for Health AI?
Who's brave enough to unmute themselves and speak up?
This is Harita. I think, with Health AI, they would have identified a lot of pitfalls, any potholes that they may be unaware of while they're drawing the strategy out, and know the right sources, and have less risk when they're trying to put a solution around something.
Thank you. That's a good guess. Anyone else?
So, hi, this is Scott speaking. This is one of those horrible tension issues, because
Correct.
it's perfect is the enemy of the good, and sometimes I think Health AI was probably the technically right way to go in terms of safety, but it could be Innovate went faster, and they discovered what they didn't know faster and iterated, and maybe got to some answers more quickly. So it's a really tough call here.
Yeah.
And I would also add, this is Vijita, I would also add that perhaps I'm kind of in the same boat as Scott, and that there's a best practice way of doing things, and then there's a pragmatic way of doing things. It's also like the sooner you put your product out in market, maybe it's the sooner you can kind of validate it. So they have like faster iterations. Perhaps that would have been helpful for Innovate Tech.
I would like to jump in with an opinion, Mo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's this just seems to me like one of those classic garbage in, garbage out situations. While I adore agile and quick innovation, there's a reason in some sectors you don't do that, like healthcare. So if you have non-standardized data, you're definitely getting garbage out. And if you're trying to innovate on health, and then you're giving somebody incorrect health data, for instance, certain blood cell counts, because you had incorrect data, that is not somewhere where you go in and break things to move fast. So yeah, especially again, we're talking about standardizing data and making sure the quality of the data is clean. Your output will be garbage if you don't do that.
Yeah.
And unusable.
Yeah, so I'll say this, Scott, again. I'll say this one last thing about it. I've actually worked on some of the health tech stuff before, and I worked on a project where we found that there was potential bad data in an ETL process that could potentially even hurt people. So in this case, I have to learn towards Health AI. I understand the cool thing to say is be agile and go Innovate Tech, but I want to say Health AI because of the safety needs in this particular area.
Exactly. Thank you so much, everyone, for chiming in. And you're right. Health AI basically is doing a better job. So let's see what happens next. So the result, yes, Innovate Tech, it opens up to potential lawsuits, because getting data just like that violates a number of laws, including HIPAA, at least in the US, assuming that these two companies are in the US. Number two, any data, if you're not careful, it could have biases as well. For example, the way you're gathering data, let's say you're gathering data only from patients who are coming in the evenings. So you're gonna have biases in the data in terms of inpatient timings. You're also gonna have biases in data in terms of demographics, depending upon where the hospital is. So you have to be careful in that. And then if your data is unorganized, as in, let's say you're a lot of times when you gather any data, a lot of times you get a lot of blanks, a lot of rows are complete garbage. It happens a lot. And if you're not careful, then unorganized data can lead to inaccurate predictions, which can lead to essentially, now I've said high readmission rate. What I should say is it can lead to like no benefit of this prediction. And then it's possible that the hospital, if it already had a high readmission rate, then Medicare actually penalizes it. So, and of course, based on all of this, customers like the hospitals may actually also end up getting reputational damage as well. On the other hand, Health AI, they followed a strategy to gather data. So what they ended up ensuring is before even putting in the data into their AI model, their data was clean, well organized, and their AI model achieved high accuracy. And then because they were able to predict accurately, hospitals, their customers were able to give proactive medical treatment, thereby actually reducing the readmission rate, which in a way tech could not do. And then because of their accurate predictions, they were able to give personalized care plans to the patients as well. In all of this, the reason for looking at these two stories was to basically drive home the point, what's needed before one even starts gathering data, or even when one starts gathering data for an AI model. So the first thing is basically identify the business objective and the product vision. As in, the first step is not even AI. Basically, identify what you're trying to even do. And then of course, if you have identified that, hey, AI and in like adding an AI feature is the way to go, then of course you start with data collection and managing data. And then number 4 is data quality, governance, and ethics. And then finally, scaling AI models and measuring success. So we are going to take a look at all of these 4. And ethics is going to be something that's probably going to come in both of these sections. So today's agenda, we are going to be taking a look at a case study. Again, fictitious company, but based on very real companies. So we are going to be looking at the case studies, and we are going to go through each of these 4 sections. So, right, so imagine GrocerEase. It's a startup. Once again, it's a fictitious company. You are Chris P. Lettuce, the founder of GrocerEase. Your company, GrocerEase, is a startup which is focused on simplifying grocery shopping for busy urban dwellers. So what is it exactly? It's basically a subscription-based service that delivers personalized grocery boxes to customers' doorstep, containing fresh produce, staple foods, and recipe suggestions. So it basically goes one step further from Amazon Prime or Whole Foods. On their app, what you can do, you can basically prepare a cart that, hey, I'm going to need this set of groceries every month. And then you subscribe, and then they send you the groceries. In that manner, you can actually keep getting fresh produce and milk, etc., regularly without actually worrying about going to Amazon Prime again and again. So that's the startup. And meet the funding, as in meet the VC. The venture capitalist's name is Sirius A Funding. He works at Big Shot Ventures, and his company, Big Shot Ventures, led the last round of funding for GrocerEase. Because of that, Mr. Sirius is actually on the board of directors for GrocerEase, and he's focused on increasing revenue and decreasing the cash burn rate. So Big Shot Ventures, they do expect GrocerEase to expand its customer base rapidly while finding ways to cut down operational cost. As in, their main goal is to basically reduce the cash burn that they're doing in every order, while also increasing the number of customers. They don't expect profitability immediately, but they want to see a clear path. toward their profitability. So because of this, Mr. Chris is actually in stress. GrocerEase has been operational for a year. It has a really small niche customer base. Let's say, imagine a small customer base in the Bay Area, or depending upon where you are, a really small customer base. Now, investors, they want to see a significant growth in the number of orders, in the number of customers, and also in the average order value, and also they want to see better cost management. They believe that, Chris believes that adding new features or products will help achieve these goals. So let's get to the workshop. So I'm gonna keep the description of the company right on the side so that everyone can keep reading. So now let's start, and I'm gonna need a lot of participation now. So feel free to keep unmuting yourself. So let's define a business goal. At this point, forget about AI. Let's define a business goal for GrocerEase. Come on, let's popcorn.
Increase the number of signups for customers.
That's good. Anything else? Come on, and keep brainstorming, keep suggesting.
Size of the orders, maybe.
Size of the order, so average order value.
Yeah.
What else?
Economic order quantities of items for inventory control, because these are perishable goods, some of them. So
That's
the
a
less
good-
the less waste you have on hand, the better. But you still want to be able to not have out of stocks.
Yeah, that's a really good point. In fact, that is something we are going to be visiting later on. So inventory control. So I would say reduce waste, but also out of stock errors.
And that feeds into, I mean, the VC requirements of profitability, so gross margins and operational margins, as well as repeated customers.
Okay, repeated customers. That's interesting. Okay.
Or you could say churn.
Yeah.
Reduce churn. Okay, yes, we have gotten some great answers. Two more, and then I'm going to basically combine all of this to create a business goal. Come on, anyone who wants to unmute?
We should also focus on increasing customer base, maybe.
Increasing customer base, as in, are you referring to like signups itself?
Like we said, as of now, we have a small number of loyal customers. So, like we can increase the segment, have another segment of customers maybe.
I love that. Okay, increase the customer base. Okay.
All right, so here's another one for you. If one of the VC requirements is also to increase revenue, so they could do recommended cross-sell and upsells based on behavior.
Oh, okay. So are you suggesting like vertically integrate?
No, just that if they say they want to increase profitability and we have their history of what they're getting for their meals, we should be able to make recommendations on upselling, cross-sell.
Oh, okay. That's also something that we might actually take a look at later on, depending upon how the answers in this workshop actually go. Upsell and cross-sell. Recommend other products. Okay, perfect. So I think we have a lot of great answers. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to condense all of this into a really like one sentence business goal. So the VC, yes. So the biggest thing that we actually saw here was increasing customer base and increasing signups. So let's define the business goal as to, let's say, double the customer base, let's say within, let's think of a time frame as in within 1 year. And we also wanted to actually reduce the operational cost, from the VC. So while reducing operational costs, and let's actually assign it a number, because typically when you are a founder of a company, the VCs, they actually want to see a proper mathematical number. So let's basically assign numbers here. So by, let's say 10%, and by 10% is too unambitious, let's say 20. And then operational cost by, let's say 25%. I'm just basically arbitrarily assigning numbers here. Obviously, as a founder in a company, this would be based on discussions with the VC. So this is our business goal. So let's keep moving forward. So now that we have defined a business goal, think of a product vision. Now, the difference between a product vision and a business goal is this. A business goal is essentially what you want to do for the company, like where you want the company to be. But a product vision is essentially how you want to change the life of the customer. So think of basically the current customer, a person who is subscribing to regular grocery deliveries, and think of how you would like their lives to be improved. So yes, please go ahead and brainstorm.
I have a thought here. So recently I've been noticing there's a lot of alternate recommendations as healthier options or low calorie options. So I would love to have an app. Every time I'm putting something in the cart, it would give me an option to what's a healthier option for me. And that could be also a pricier product because it's organic or a healthier product.
Yeah, great point. Healthier options, recommendations. Perfect. Anyone else?
Special offers for some events, maybe, just for, congratulatory or just for a customer loyalty program. Maybe.
Oh, okay. So basically awareness. I would say from a customer standpoint, the customer is being more aware of
The
loyalty.
options.
So I would add offer some kind of coupon or other offer for a customer if they get one of their neighbors to sign up. Because if you think about it, if I live in a building or if I have a neighbor, who's my best next customer? It's somebody to whom I can deliver right next door, because this way I'm not delivering across town. So,
I love that.
offers for when bonuses if you can get a neighbor to sign up.
Yeah, I would say anticipate when the customer is running out of a particular grocery.
Yeah.
And send them an alert.
It's maybe the ease of reordering is what I was thinking.
Yep, ease of reordering. Actually, these are two different points and really important. So I love both of these. So I'm going to add both of these, ease of reordering and also anticipating when the customer is going to need something. Anyway, yeah, these are two really good points. Please go ahead.
I just put a long tagline in the chat, but bringing groceries to your door when you already have too much to carry. It seems like from the product overview, they already kind of stated the vision, right? It's to save customers time by bring groceries to your door. And it's for busy urban dwellers. So I'm saying anything we say for the vision must target those two things, the target market and the purpose.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea. In fact, independent of AI, I mean, even independent of this workshop, I love the empathy that you're showing here. A lot of times, I was talking to a friend of mine who works at Amazon, and this was one of the things is then a lot of times the delivery happens at the building's doorstep, but the customer's apartment is basically like in the 8th floor, and the customer's on wheelchair. What do we do? Like that, not just that last mile delivery, but that last 10 feet delivery, that's really important. So thank you for calling this out. Yep. Anybody else?
So you could, because you have knowledge of what they bought, and ostensibly you probably have API feeds into the coupon stream, you could automatically offer them coupons for things you already know they buy. And this would lead to greater customer satisfaction and maybe higher retention levels.
I love that idea. In fact, I think at least for this AI workshop, I think we have gotten some really, really good ideas. Thank you, everyone. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to condense all of this to create a product vision. And I would basically say, make it easier for the user or customer to decide what to order. That's it. A simple product vision. This is not just a product vision. Basically, this is how I want to improve the life of the customer. So, okay. So now that we had defined this as our product vision, let's think of some product ideas. Some features. Now, I know that in a typical product management process, we basically start with the mission of the company, and then we basically look at customer segments, etc. And then we look at pain points, and then we look at product ideas. Here, in the interest of time, we are skipping all of that. We are basically just throwing out ideas which make it easier for the customer to decide what to order. So yes, please go ahead.
Having the history of the previous orders.
Okay, go ahead. So based on the history of the previous orders, what do we do?
Oh, like, like have a click of a button where it autofills everything.
Okay.
Walmart Plus is something similar. It knows what I ordered before and gives me all the suggestions to just click and order those.
All right. Okay, that's a good idea. Tell me more.
Yeah.
Promotion of
the-
new items, maybe newly launched items and products.
Yeah. My way of thinking is the value proposition was recipes, or so they need to know what recipe and what ingredients are required.
Yeah.
One idea can be if there is an IoT based application running inside the refrigerator or somewhere there, and it can be tracked that what kind of groceries are filled in there, and then it can indicate like they need some filling for the milk or they need some vegetables, like something like that. An IoT based application integrated with the app.
Okay, so basically an IoT-based product running inside the refrigerator and basically generates an auto alert for a fresh order. That's a great
Yeah.
idea as well. Yes, that's a really good idea.
One
Please
can be there can be references for another applications, the embedded ones. Like for example, I'm not sure if anybody would be aware of it. Like in Blinkit is an app in India, so it gives the recommendation if you want to have a cold coffee that is linked to Zomato. So in a way, it's like a third party, connection, something like that. So that can enhance the customer experience and get the revenue.
Oh, okay. Okay, so can you help me describe it in a really simple manner? As in, yeah.
Embedded third party associations.
Okay, so I would say use data or use third party associations. Okay. Yeah, I've seen Blinkit myself. They deliver in like 10 minutes. It's pretty amazing. Okay.
And to the doorstep.
I would also say that we should also like look into what customers are returning or their satisfaction with the order. Like items in the order, for example, fruit is such a perfect example. Sometimes you get bad fruit. So how many times are you delivering bad fruit, or your customer is unhappy? How many returns are they kind of requesting, refunds they're requesting? I think that's also like a good data point.
Yeah.
Or a pain point, because if I'm missing something, then I don't know, do I reorder? What do I do? I'm missing an item from a customer perspective.
Yeah. And that's a really good idea of like using this data. Now, how do you think about using this data? As in, two ways I can think of is number one, what you're recommending to the customers, and number two, what you're stocking in the local inventory warehouse. I mean, these two ways I can think of. Any more ways you would think of how we can use this data?
I think it's also like if would we deliver, I mean that adds a cost component, but would we deliver that item to the customer, something that they returned or requested a refund on? And the second is like the workforce aspect, like how we kind of ensuring like the workforce quality, training, etc. And that again goes to one of the points we had discussed in the prior section, where it was about inventory management. So, how you're managing, especially from a produce perspective, that the inventory is kept fresh. So those are the things I could think of for this particular point.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay, that's actually kind of like a well thought of idea. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, go ahead. Somebody
Yeah,
wanted.
can I add at least one more that makes a lot of sense for this? So making it easier for user customer to decide what to order. I would say having subscription or repeated order. Groceries, a lot of groceries are staples, and you order like new milk every month. So being able to just automatically set that up without having to step into the app and get reminders that it's coming up.
Yeah, you're right.
And
And that's
to add to Vijita's point, like we can make it 6.1 perhaps. It would be addition of forgotten items. Like you have already placed an order. Suppose you forgot a chocolate bar or something. So you should not be able to, get a new, like create a new order just for an item. They should be able to add it in the current basket, and in the same delivery charges, maybe they can deliver whatever they've forgotten.
Interesting. Okay, that's actually a really good idea as well. Amazon tries to do that, as in when you're basically about to check out. But yeah, it could be useful if you're allowed to actually add something even after ordering. DoorDash now has started doing that. So that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Okay.
something on the operational cost, maybe if they can schedule ahead and you incentivize for scheduling ahead versus like doing ASAP, that would keep the operational costs low too.
Got it. Okay. Awesome. So we have more ideas.
Yeah,
But
so
we
just
have
one more thing. Sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
No, I
One
was just
last
saying,
idea and then, yeah.
yeah, so 3.1, we could have people basically send them a YouTube link, for example, for them to prepare that recipe. So it will facilitate that. And the last one the last idea I had was related to seasonality, because in certain months, certain seasons, we have, say, fresh mangoes. So those could be promoted to the customer.
Which one? Seasonality is in, okay, so let's
And you
add
can
it.
easily link it with the IoT based application because it will see that what is there in the refrigerator and the recipes can be linked and even the
Yep.
nutritional values can be suggested.
Yep.
Or the freshness of the product which is inside the refrigerator, and that can also be linked to the reorder or replacement.
Yeah. All great ideas. And yes, that's a great idea too. Seasonality and link it to basically the freshness of the product. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to condense all of this and to basically think of a new feature. So some really great ideas based on recipes and based on recommendations on what to order as well. For now, because a startup would love to do everything, but we are a startup and we have limited funds. So let's basically do something simple. Let's have a product idea of a new feature on the mobile app. So the customers already have a mobile app, but we want to add a new feature that, hold on. How would I condense all of this? Yes, so a new feature on the mobile app that I would say recommends recipes, meal plans, and grocery lists based on different factors like seasonality, and also makes it easy reordering items. And also it bases this on inventory, as in the company has a local warehouse, so whatever is in stock in the local warehouse, take that into account as well, take into account seasonality, and take into account different things like return data. That's a great idea as well. So we want to add a new feature in the mobile app that recommends all of this. So far, we have thought of AI, but this can be implemented even without AI. So now we are going to take a few minutes to brainstorm how you would use AI to scale up your idea. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time, probably just 4 ideas. So yes, please go ahead.
What if we allow the customer to tell us what they want to cook, like what the meal is, and based on the recipes, each meal could have many recipes, but the app can recommend the grocery list based just on the name of the food. So like, I don't know, they want to cook pasta bolognese or something, and they would say, okay, you need meat, pasta, cheese, whatever. And they would, instead of asking for the separate items.
Yeah, that's a really good point. In fact, there is a startup I know of. I think Jupiter is a company that was started by a classmate of mine, and you can actually select based on the dish you want to cook. That's a great idea. More. Anyone else?
We could use
Maybe
AI.
they can segment the user. Yeah, go ahead.
Did somebody say something?
I was just going to say that to use AI and scale our ideas, I think we're going to invest in the recommendation systems, just knowing what they've ordered and what you could recommend.
I love that. Yep. Okay.
And generate meal planners with GenAI, and also suggest a list of items to be ordered. So weekly meal planner kind of things. So
Oh, okay. Actually, GenAI or not, whether we want to use GenAI or not, that's typically a call of a data scientist, but the meal plan idea is good. I'm going to note that down. Okay. What
meal
else?
plan with the ingredients automatically being added to the cart.
Okay. Perfect.
You could use
Riya,
AI
one
to
point.
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I would say you could use AI to indicate what clusters of items are seasonal. So this can become a leading indicator, not a lagging indicator, and that could help you with your purchasing.
Yeah, you're right. For example, summer is coming in at least, and if you're looking at the Bay Area itself, where, for example, there is a huge number of people from India like me, and we are gonna want to have like mangoes, right? So we have a leading indicator of mangoes purchases going up. Yeah, great idea.
And you could even tie that into like weather data to anticipate that, but that's a separate issue.
Yeah, but I love the idea. It's a moonshot, but it's actually pretty good. Yep. Just one more idea, and then we are gonna move.
Yeah,
So
we can
so yeah.
segmentize the users based on their purchases, the amount of their purchases, and we can target a particular area maybe to increase the sales and revenue. User segmentation.
User segmentation. Okay, but how does AI? What role does AI play?
So actually, you can actually use provide something like a health benefits. I mean, user segmentation based on health benefits. I mean, what is the advantage, drawbacks, types of allergens, blah blah blah, all those things that can basically address how you increase users joining or subscribing, because that's a huge benefit when you're trying to give cooking recommendations. I mean, all those things. Adding this would definitely help customers kind of adopt to this, because that tells them, hey, this is something useful from a health point of view.
So
yeah. In fact, I love the idea. So basically, you can take a look at various nutrients like vitamin B12. These days, deficiency of vitamin D and B12 is kind of really prevalent. So something like that. Okay, I love the idea. Awesome.
Yeah, I would like to add two
Focusing on
things.
only organic things like what can grow, what we can eat, but the grocery stores, right? They non-tangible, hard items also they give, like decoration items maybe, or curtains or any other home items also they usually deliver. So are we taking that into consideration here for groceries, or only the produce part?
Yeah, so for now, it's basically only the produce part. And yes, in the interest of time, we should actually move forward. We only have 20 minutes left. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to condense all of this into some really good ideas about meal plans and recommendation systems. We did have some great moonshots, but to keep the idea simple from an AI lens, let's redefine the product idea as basically, I would say, hold on, let me think. yeah, so I would say personalized recommendation for meal plans based on customers' preferences. We can even have dietary needs, which the customer said dietary needs. So we do take in the fourth point as well. And we also take into account the past orders. And we also take into account inventory. And we basically introduce another AI problem here, or an AI feature here. Basically, we want to predict how the inventory is going to behave. As in, so basically looking at seasonality, looking at weather, are we going to have the stock of mangoes in a month or not? So basically, we have like two AI problems here. Number one, using AI to basically recommend meal plans to the customers. And number two, using AI to predict how inventory is going to be in future, maybe in the next few weeks or in a few months. So based on this, let's define the problem statement. So the problem statement, now I'm gonna, this is not a brainstorming, I'm just gonna go ahead and define. So I would say the problem statement in terms of AI is optimize. Actually, I would say optimize the likelihood of the customer or ordering the recommended meal plan. Because from an AI predictions standpoint, whatever we recommend, if the customer directly orders that, that's success. And at the same time, actually, yes, and also I would say optimize or minimize the likelihood of out of stock errors when the customer searches for something and produce basically going bad. So we actually created a stock of mangoes, but nobody bought it. So the mangoes are bad now. So we basically want to maximize the likelihood. So I would say maximize the likelihood of the customer ordering the recommended meal plan, and minimize the likelihood of basically bad inventory outcomes. So here, I would actually define the objective function. So out of all of this, when we actually achieve this, or when we start working on achieving this, what do we actually end up maximizing? Like, what's our end goal? One objective function that we can actually aim to maximize is customer satisfaction. Maximize customer satisfaction. Now, how do you measure customer satisfaction? You can actually measure it using customer NPS, referrals. I would actually measure customer satisfaction with repeat orders. So maximize the number of repeat orders. Actually, hold on. Maybe let's take a step back. The VC actually wants us to increase the number of customers as well, right? So maybe we can actually take a look at customer referrals. So the number of times the customers are actually referring their friends to our service. So this could be something that we want to maximize. Now, what are the constraints? The constraints are, at least on the inventory side, limited storage capacity, or I would basically say storage capacity is a constraint. So we have to take that into account. And we also have varying customer preferences. And we also have seasonality. Right now, a lot of this, now in reality, these 3 points would be actually defined by a data scientist. So typically you would define all of these in terms of a mathematical function. Like this would not just be maximize customer referral. No, this would actually be a variable, a mathematical variable. But in this case, basically just to save time, I'm basically keeping it high level. So now so now that we have defined these two as our main AI goals, now let's basically let's bring this down. Let's think about what type of data we are gonna collect. So quickly, let's brainstorm. So anyone wants to unmute themselves, what kind of data should GrocerEase collect for their AI model? Feel free to unmute yourself.
The order history.
Okay, good. Order history. What else?
Since we're looking at seasonality, I guess there has to be some kind of a chart that lists the items and the season that they're available in from an inventory perspective.
Okay, so this is not related to the customers, it's basically related to the context, the situation we are in.
Correct.
Okay.
Customer
Search
preferences for their meal plans and habits and their health preferences so that we can give them the dietary plan suggested.
Yeah, that's a really good idea as well. Okay. And one more.
Fulfillment error rates.
Oh, error rates and fulfillment. Love that. Okay.
Price sensitiveness.
Great call out. Okay. Yep.
Searched
And
items.
what is that again?
Search items. Any items that the customer searches for, whether or not it is an inventory.
Yeah, love that. In fact, I love how everyone is thinking here. And you know what? All of these points are really, really important. In fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to basically, once again, condense all of these into some points. As in, from the customer, what they want to collect is essentially preferences, as we have already called out. We also want to collect past order data, and we want to collect past feedback as well. And then on the inventory side, because we want to take into account inventory too. So on the inventory side, we want to take into account stock levels. We want to take into account expiry dates of each items, and we might take into account supplier information, but okay, that's basically too much. And then finally, app usage data. So basically looking at searches and reorder. What customers reorder? Yes, go ahead.
Should we add a cost and or price to inventory?
Yep, that's a really good point. Okay, perfect. So now that we have decided what data we are going to be gathering, we have to speed up. Hey, Bijan, can we go like 15 minutes over? Is that okay?
I'm okay with that. So for those of you that are not able to join, I will be sharing the link to the recording in the weekly newsletter, and we'll also include a link to some of the documentations that are being used here so you can always refer back to them for your references. Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so in collecting all of this data, let's think about what challenges you might gather, what challenges you might encounter. So for example, one challenge could be data completeness. This is something that I've personally seen in all of the AI products that I've shipped. A lot of rows are blanks, a lot of cells are blanks as well. So data quality issues, and a lot of times the data itself can be garbage. So that's number one. Think of a few more challenges that might come up. Anyone? If not, there's one more quality issue that I've encountered again and again is the nature of the data, qualitative data, as in, let's say I gathered data on, let's say basically one piece of data that I'm gathering is the state the customer is in. The state is in California, Massachusetts, etc. Now, the state is a qualitative data that cannot be consumed by a mathematical function. What do you do then? Normally, you have to basically start thinking, okay, how would I convert my qualitative data into a quantitative data that a mathematical model can consume? In this specific example that I just gave for state, the state has to be then converted into like 50 binary fields. Like, is California or is Massachusetts, etc., 0 or 1. And then this can be consumed. So by the time your binarization is done, in your data, if you have like 10 fields, it actually balloons up to like 500 because you have like quite a few qualitative fields. So that's one more challenge that you might encounter. Anybody else who wants to chime in? One more challenge that I've encountered again and again is the privacy. As in, a lot of times we are basically collecting customer preferences, past orders, feedback. We want to make sure that what data we are gathering does not violate any privacy, does not violate the privacy at all. And it does not violate any laws either, like GDPR or CCPA, the California version of GDPR. So we have to take that into account as well. Right. So these are the challenges that you might gather, that you might actually encounter when gathering data. So, and one more thing that we are actually gonna basically discuss in the next section is biases. So let's say you're gathering data from the app, but because of the data, let's say that right now your customer base is basically niche customers who are like really busy. Now, what does that mean? That means that these really busy customers have a certain kind of lifestyle, or they're going to prefer certain products which are like easy to cook, etc. Now, that means that your data is going to be more biased toward easy to cook items. But that's not the case when you actually start expanding your customer base. So you might have biases that you have to take into account. So yeah, these are the challenges that one might get. So the next section is management of data quality issues. So number one, of course, is biases. So in this case, management of biases normally kind of like happens. Now, I'm not going to pause for brainstorming here. I'm basically just going to think about what to do in this case. In my own past experience, I've encountered biases that are way more consequential when building products to predict delinquencies, etc. So in those cases, from the only way I've seen is basically manually review the data and manually detect any biases. So that's one way to do it. But another way to do it is a lot of times what also happens is you might think, oh, you might decide, okay, to reduce any biases, I'm going to eliminate any demographic or private information. That's step one. But step two in that, a lot of times, based on all the other data that you're gathering, one can actually still identify demographic and private information. Now, this is gonna be, I'm actually gonna discuss this in the privacy section as well, but demographic information is important to be eliminated from a bias standpoint as well, so that your data is not biased toward a particular demographic. So you have to eliminate that as well. So basically, these are two ways to do it. Now, going forward, now privacy is a huge point as well. So when you actually get data, which let's say you gather data and you have eliminated all the demographic or private information and you're happy, what happens next? Well, newsflash, you might still get sued because a lot of times all the other data that you're gathering, that can lead to prediction of demographics. For example, I remember I was working on this product, which was all about predicting, this was a few years ago, way before I joined into it. I was working on a product that was all about predicting some kind of a behavior. Now, of course, when I reviewed it with my company's lawyers, they said, yes, please remove any demographic information, but we were taking zip code information. And unfortunately, in the US, if you're ingesting zip code information, you are indirectly ingesting demographic information too. So eliminate any data that is correlated with demographics. So we have to do these two things to basically be on the safe side in terms of privacy. So that's basically that. And then finally, converting qualitative data. Actually, we already discussed this. Qualitative data, the best way, one of the ways to actually convert qualitative data into quantitative mathematical quantities is to binarize. So that's basically the way to do it. Okay, so now we are going to have some brainstorming once again. So in this case, now the next point, so let's say as part of GrocerEase, you have thought of all of these things. We have created so far a product strategy, we have created a product idea, and we have thought of how we would scale it using AI. That's good. Now, how would you scale the number of customers this AI model is serving? I can actually start the idea and then we can actually together brainstorm. One of the ways to do it is better. So one of the ways to actually kind of like think about is infrastructure. So you need to start thinking about what database you're going to be investing in, what load balancers you're going to be investing in as well, any more scaling challenges that you might encounter when using AI to serve your customers better. Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself.
Well, I mean, maybe this is part of infrastructure, but you're going to need data lakes and data warehouses because there's going to be, over time, non-trivial historical data here, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point. In fact, the data lake issue, like in one of my products that I actually shipped, we had to actually build a data lake altogether. So really good call out. What else? Okay, so moving on. So yes, great call out on the data lake and data warehousing. In fact, that is really important. So when scaling it up to like making AI, like making your AI model serve more customers, let's say you're expanding from California to more states, then of course you need to kind of like start investing in terms of operational costs, and those actually are investments, but you have to continuously keep updating your model, which means you need a mechanism to train your model regularly. So it cannot be that, hey, I trained my model once and then I'm using it. No, you have to have a mechanism to keep training your model regularly. Now, what that means is you need to have a data ingestion capability that does not fail, as in that can actually serve a huge amount of data, number one, and number two, you have to store that data, but we have already talked about the data lake here. So yeah, so these two. So yes, so in terms of scaling strategy, I would actually should name it as scaling technical, or basically these scaling strategies are purely technical. Okay, so having looked at how GrocerEase would scale their AI models, now proper pure product management stuff. How would we measure the effectiveness? And this is basically the last section, and then we can all drop off. So how would we measure the effectiveness of our AI prediction? Now, there are 4 things that I want to call out. Number 1 is the accuracy. For example, accuracy is basically what percentage of my predictions turned out to be right, the true positive rate. So in case of GrocerEase, this would be the number of recommended meal plans bought directly without any change divided by the total number of recommendations. So essentially the true positive rate. The mean absolute error, now this would be actually, there are different ways to define it. The way I would define it in this manner is essentially the mean error, as in the number of times is going to be essentially 1 minus the accuracy. Or we can also calculate this using the formula that, hey, the number of times the recommendation was edited before ordering divided by total recommendation. So essentially the opposite of accuracy. Now precision. Now, this is a real precision and recall. Now, these two are really interesting metrics. Precision is, hold on, let me actually check my definition. I keep forgetting this as well. Hold on. Yeah, so precision is, so imagine I recommended, let's say it made, this month, I made like 100 recommendations. How many of those recommendations were bought, which is basically similar to accuracy that we are defining, but recall is different. Let's say this month we served 120 orders. How many of those were recommended? So out of all the orders that the customers placed, how many were actually recommended by my system? Right, so precision recall, so these two, we actually want to maximize both of them, but maximizing both of them at the same time is also difficult. So let's say, for example, we want to increase our accuracy. We want to ensure that all the predictions that we are making, all the recommendations we are making, the customers are buying all of them. Now, one way to achieve that is make fewer recommendations. Only recommend something which you are basically 99.99% sure about. That would increase precision, that would increase accuracy, but that's gonna decrease the recall because you're probably gonna make only 5 recommendations and those 5 recommendations out of like 120 orders. So that's gonna decrease recall. You want to maximize both of them. That means that you gotta do better in terms of your AI model to make better recommendations. Finally, as a product manager, yes, you want to also measure the effectiveness of your product itself. So of course, you're gonna take a look at your user engagement metrics like daily active users, the average order value, etc. You're also gonna look at operational metrics like operational costs. You're also gonna be looking at the number of times you get out of stock errors, and the number of times you also have expired stock, as in products that are actually going expired. On the side of business metrics, yes, you would be looking at revenue because the VCs really want that. And you're also going to be looking at cost per order. And then finally, satisfaction metrics. The biggest metric here is referrals, also known as NPS. And then we could also basically take a look at feedback. So in this manner, so in this entire workshop, what we did, we took a startup and then number one, we started by defining a business goal and a product vision. Then we basically thought of some product ideas and we basically created this product idea that we can build. And then we thought of, hey, how to use AI to scale that product up. And then based on what we decided, how we decided to use AI, we basically discussed what data we are going to be collecting, what challenges we are going to encounter, what biases, privacy issues, and how to basically convert qualitative data. And then finally, we basically thought of scaling and measuring success. So going forward, when you're thinking of using AI for your product, before even starting to implement AI, always think of these 4 points. Thank you so much, everyone. If anyone's interested, I'm going to open it up for questions.
Thank you so much, Riya. Amazing session, really valuable for the community. This was really great. And I can see from a lot of the messages that people are posting, they also found it very helpful. For those of you that would like to get a copy of today's session, a recording will be available in the AI PM community page on our website. You can just go to our website under the AI Product Manager. You'll see the tab. Give us a couple days for the recording to be available. And we'll also link to some of the documents that were used during this session. And again, if you're considering becoming an AI product manager, more knowledgeable, I highly recommend you to take a look at our AI product manager course. I think there's a lot of value in it. Thank you so much, Riya. Really appreciate it. Would have loved to give us more time to ask questions. Maybe we can do 1 or 2. Because you said 15 minutes. We've got a couple of minutes, maybe. Let's see. Does anybody have like a burning question that they really want to ask?
I do.
Go ahead, Harita. Go ahead.
Riya, you said in the introduction that you did over 9 projects on generative AI, sorry, just AI and generative AI. Would you like to talk about how it was when you started and what it is today? As what changed with the AI projects?
Yeah, that's a really good point. In fact, a few years ago, when I first started exploring AI, I was still a student at Stanford, and I was trying to build this AI feature which would help a restaurant think of what features in a restaurant would increase the footfalls and would increase the number of customers coming in at the restaurant. What has changed is the interest. And when I was trying to build this feature, in fact, the paper is up on my LinkedIn. It was really hard to recruit partners who would actually work with me on this. But now, whenever I say like, hey, I'm working on this feature which predicts this, it's really so much easier to get interest and help. So I think the people have changed. At the time, AI was seen as some kind of a mathematical gizmo, but now with ChatGPT, etc., people are thinking, hey, anyone can do it, and therefore people are more willing to share their ideas.
That's neat. Thank you.
All right, great. Any other questions? Any other burning questions that somebody wants to ask? All right, I know people are also probably wondering, they're running late for a few minutes for their meetings. So thank you so much, Rio, again, for coming in. This was an amazing session, and looking forward to hopefully having you again in our community. Please have a great weekend, and we'll see you all next Friday. We're going to continue to have great community sessions. We got another great one next week, and we can see all the agenda and all the upcoming events in our AI Product Manager community session. Until then, have a great day. Bye.
What I love is the structured, the structured way of knowledge, and the beauty is, at least our instructor is the way he is structuring the information, the data, and controlling the time. It's really fantastic. I'm very satisfied, and it is a combination of the knowledge, which is more like information or theory, but then we are doing the workshop, and you will not you surprised, but what we are enjoying is that the surprise is practical for the PMs, right? So mostly what we think of that, okay, the workshop or the practical thing for the engineering team, this doesn't work that way, right? So right now what we are working on, say as an example, the PRD, and in parallel we are doing the little workshop as well, where we are brainstorming whether it's a particular use case is rule based versus it should be required the LLM versus other ML model and stuff like that, right? So it's a combination, and if you are able to relate with what you're doing in your office, it gives you a whole lot of sense. And thank you so much, Bijan, because I'm sure that there's a whole lot of brainstorming with you and team has done to produce something like that. It is not just come out of the blue. It's definitely whole lot of behind the scene effort is going on. So thank you so much for you and on for the entire team which is working behind the scene, right?